How many times have you replayed it? Not just thought about it once and moved on, actually replayed it in detail. You remembered the exact wording of the message, the tone of the conversation, the face of the person who looked at you and said no, and the moment you understood it wasn't going to happen, then that understanding settled into your body like something heavy being set down in a place it was never meant to stay. If you are being honest with yourself right now, it was probably more than a few times, and here is something worth knowing about that. Something that science has uncovered in the last 2 decades that I think changes the way you understand your own experience. And that changes what you do with the replay when it starts. When researchers put people in brain scanners and showed them photographs of someone who had rejected them, an ex-partner after a painful breakup, a person associated with a significant professional rejection, the brain activated in a way that surprised nearly everyone in the field. The regions that lit up were not the emotional processing centers they had expected. They were the regions associated with physical pain. The secondary somatosensory cortex, along with the dorsal posterior insula. These are the same regions that respond when you burn your hand, when you take a hard hit, when the body registers actual physical injury. The brain, at a neurological level, does not distinguish between social rejection and physical harm. It treats them the same way, with the same urgency and the same response, which means that when you have been lying awake at 1 in the morning, replaying the conversation, running the moment back on a loop, feeling the specific ache of it again and again, you are not being dramatic, you are not weak. What you are experiencing is, by every biological measure we have, a genuine form of pain. Now hold that for a moment, because I want to add one more layer before we go anywhere with it. Replaying rejection does not make it hurt less. The research on rumination, the technical name for the mental pattern of repeatedly returning to a painful thought or memory, shows something that is counterintuitive at first. Every return to the memory reactivates the pain signal, not faintly and not as a shadow of the original. The neurological response to the recalled rejection is measurably similar to the original experience of it. And more than that, repeated rumination strengthens the neural pathway. With every return to the memory, the route becomes more established. Your brain gets better and better at finding its way back to the pain because you have given it so much practice at doing exactly that. This is not a character flaw. I want to say that clearly. It is a feature of a brain that was designed over a very long period of evolutionary time to take social threats seriously. For most of human history, social rejection was a genuine survival risk. Exclusion from the group was dangerous. Being cut off from the community had real physical consequences for a person's ability to survive. Over time, the brain developed a system to register social pain with intensity, to replay threatening social experiences in order to analyze them, to understand what went wrong, and to prevent a recurrence. The problem is that this same system, designed to protect you from real social danger, applies itself with equal intensity to a job application that didn't go through. It reacts to a business deal that fell apart, a pitch that was passed on, a relationship that ended, and a door that closed. Your brain cannot distinguish between a threat to your physical survival and a rejection letter from a company that chose someone else. It uses the same biological machinery for both. And so it does what it was built to do. It replays the threat. It returns to the scene and tries to figure out what went wrong so you can prevent it from happening again. And in the process, it keeps the wound open. I want to talk today about what to actually do with that. Not by suppressing the replay. The research is clear that suppression doesn't work, and most of you already know this from personal experience. But by changing what the replay is pointed at. By changing the question it is asking. Because here is the thing I want you to understand before we go any further. The replay is not the problem. What damages you is the interpretation you attach to the replay. Almost everyone who replays a rejection attaches the same interpretation to it. Rarely is it stated explicitly. It runs underneath the replay like a bass note under a melody, shaping the emotional tone of the whole thing without necessarily being heard as a separate voice. The interpretation goes like this: this happened because something about me was insufficient. If I had been more prepared, more experienced, more talented, more strategic, more ready, this would have gone differently. The rejection is evidence of a gap in me, a deficit, something missing that someone else found wanting. That interpretation is almost always wrong. And I mean wrong not in the feel better, reassure yourself it'll be fine way. I mean wrong in the way that a false reading of evidence is wrong. The conclusion does not follow from the facts. Here is what I have observed and what I want to offer as a different reading of the same evidence. Think of any person whose life has arrived somewhere that looks purposeful and directed. Someone whose story, from where you stand, looks like they found the right track and stayed on it. Now think carefully about how they actually got there, what their path looked like in the middle, not from the end. Almost without exception, the path they are on now is not the path they originally intended. Their history usually includes at least one rejection, often more than one, that at the time felt like the wrong thing happening. It felt like evidence that it wasn't going to work, like a door closing in a direction they needed it to open. And with enough distance from it, looking backward from where they actually arrived, the rejection was the turn. It was the moment the road changed direction, and the new direction was the one that led to where they are. This is not a narrative I am constructing to make rejection more palatable. It is a pattern, a consistent recurring shape in human stories across different fields and different contexts and different kinds of rejection. Consistent enough that it deserves to be taken seriously as a principle rather than dismissed as the kind of thing people say when they want to be encouraging. The door that closed was not evidence against you. It was a route correction towards something for which the previous path was insufficient. And there is a voice that speaks to this with a specificity and an authority I find unmatched. Isaiah 43, written into a season of collective loss, to people who had been displaced from the life they knew, who were in the middle of something that looked, from every angle, like an ending. And into that season, God said something that I want you to hear, not as comfort theology, but as an active, present-tense description of what is happening right now. Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Now it springs forth, not soon, nor only when things feel better, certainly not after the grief has run its course and you are ready for something new. Now, while you are still in the middle of it, even while the replay is still running, also while the former thing is still close enough that you can feel it. The new thing is not waiting for the old thing to fully close before it begins. It is already in motion. Do you not perceive it? That question is not rhetorical. It is a genuine, practical question about the direction of your attention. And the implication embedded in the question is this: the reason you might not perceive the new thing is not that it isn't there. It is that your attention is still pointed at the former thing. You are still facing the closed door, and the new thing is beginning behind you. You cannot see what is behind you when you are facing the other direction. This is not metaphysical. It is a practical observation about how attention works. Attention is not infinite. It is a resource with limits. Every unit of your attention that goes toward replaying what didn't work is a unit that is not available for perceiving what is already beginning. The two directions are in competition with each other, and the direction your attention faces determines in a very literal way what you are able to see. So the question I want to put in the room before we get to the practice is this: what would happen if, every time the replay started, you introduced a different question? Not, what went wrong? Instead of asking what this means about you, ask, Where is the new thing? That question does not erase the pain. Pain does not work that way, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But it redirects the inquiry. It sends the mind's searching energy, all that neurological intensity that is currently pointed at the closed door, in a different direction. And the direction determines what is found. Here is the practice. It is simple, and the simplicity is intentional, because the most important practices are the ones that are sustainable, the ones you will actually do on a difficult Tuesday when you are tired and the replay has started again, and the last thing you feel like doing is something deliberate and disciplined. Every time you catch yourself replaying a rejection, any rejection, recent or years old, instead of trying to stop the thought, say this, out loud if you can, clearly in your mind if you can't. That door closed. I am looking for the new thing, 7 words. That is the entire practice. That door closed. I am looking for the new thing. Those first 4 words name what is true about the past without adding interpretation. The door closed. That is a fact. You are not saying it didn't hurt, nor are you saying you are fine with it, or that it was the right thing. You are saying the door is closed. It is done. Complete. No longer an open question. Settled history. The last 5 words name what is true about the present. I am looking for the new thing, not I have found it. Maybe not even I can see it clearly. I am looking. My attention has turned in a different direction. This is the posture of someone who believes the new thing is there to be found, and who has pointed their attention toward finding it. A redirect like this does not resolve the grief in one moment. Grief has its own timeline, and it does not respond to being hurried. But the redirect changes the direction of inquiry, and a change in the direction of inquiry sustained over time changes what gets discovered. Let me explain why this works at the level of how the brain actually changes. You do not become a person who naturally redirects attention by deciding once to redirect. That person is formed by practicing the redirect until it is no longer a choice that requires effort, until it becomes the automatic first response. The reflex. Your neural pathway toward the replay is strong because you have practiced it. Every return to the replay strengthened the root. The neural pathway toward the new question is currently weak because it is new, but it is not fixed. The brain is not static. Neural pathways strengthen with use and weaken without it. And every time you practice the redirect, every time you say those 7 words and genuinely turn your attention, you are depositing something into the pathway toward the new question. It does not feel like anything significant on day 1. Very few things do. But day 1 is not the point. By day 90, you may notice that the replay starts less often than it used to. Around month 6, when it does start, the redirect may come faster, before the replay has run very long, before it has gathered its full momentum. A year from now, you may notice that your attention is more naturally forward-facing than it was, that you have become someone who looks for the new thing rather than someone who reviews the closed door. That is what the 7 words build over time. Not a feeling. It becomes a posture, a default orientation. Eventually, it becomes the instinct of someone who, when they encounter a closed door, looks for where the new thing is beginning, rather than replaying what the closed door means. This is how character forms, not in a single decision in a dramatic moment, in 1,000 small redirects made on ordinary days when nothing significant is happening. Made again, repeated again, chosen again, until what required effort becomes instinct. There is a proverb that describes this slow accumulation beautifully. It says, "The path of the righteous is like the light of dawn. It shines brighter and brighter until the full day. Not a sudden flood of light, a gradual daily brightening. Each day barely perceptibly lighter than the day before. Individually, any single day's increment is invisible. Cumulatively, over time, it becomes daylight." The 7 words are that kind of brightening. They will not feel significant today. Over time, They build in small daily increments toward a different kind of seeing. Now, I want to say something specific about the replay that is loudest for you right now, the one that comes back the most often. Maybe it was big enough, recent enough, or involved enough people you cared about that it carries more weight than the others. It still has the power to change the quality of an evening. Whatever that replay is, the door it is pointing at is closed. That part is true. You did not imagine the closing. The loss was real, and the pain was legitimate. You do not have to feel better about it than you actually feel, but the door is closed, it is not going to open, and whatever was on the other side of it is not where you are going. God said, do not dwell on the past, not because the past did not matter. Certainly not because the loss was small, rather because the past has already finished being what it was. The former thing is former. It is done. And while your attention has been on it, something new has been beginning. Do you not perceive it? Maybe not yet. The direction may still be unclear. Perhaps the new thing has not yet taken a shape you can see, but it is there. Isaiah said so not as comfort, but as declaration. And the posture that positions you to perceive it is not more analysis of what closed, it is the turn, the looking. That door closed. I am looking for the new thing. Start there. Today. Every time. Father, I want to pray for the person whose replay is loudest right now, who has been returning to a moment of rejection, professional, relational, financial, personal, and finding the same pain waiting each time. I am not asking you to erase the memory. Give direction to the attention that has been held by it. Let the question shift. Turn the inquiry from what the closed door meant about them to where the new thing is beginning. And let the new thing be perceptible, not after the grief is complete. Now, while the wound is still present, even while the replay is still running, let something be visible in the direction they have not yet looked. The door is closed and the new thing is already in motion. Give them eyes for the direction it is in, and let the 7 words build over days and weeks and months, the person who perceives naturally what is beginning, rather than someone who reviews what has ended. That door closed. I am looking for the new thing. Let that become who they are. Amen. And I want to give you something else before we close, something beyond the 7-word practice, because the practice handles what to do when the replay starts. But there is a second question that deserves attention, which is, what do you do in the season between the closed door and the visible beginning of the new thing? Because there is always a gap, a period of time between when the former thing closes and when the new thing becomes clearly perceptible. And that gap is where most people get into the most trouble. Not because the gap is permanent, it is not, but because the gap is uncomfortable in a specific way that produces specific temptations. The temptation of the gap is to fill it. You may rush into the next thing not because it is actually the right next thing, but because the uncertainty of the gap is harder to sit in than the discomfort of a premature move. Another temptation is to take the first thing that looks like a direction rather than waiting for genuine clarity. Or you may settle for something because something is more bearable than nothing. I have done this. More than once, I have rushed past a genuine gap into the nearest available direction because I could not sit in the not yet knowing without doing something to break the uncertainty. And almost every time I have done it, the premature move cost me something, sometimes time, sometimes opportunity, sometimes relationships that got pulled into a direction I had chosen for the wrong reasons. The gap is not empty. It is not the absence of what comes next. Rather, it is the space in which the next thing is becoming visible, and the posture that positions you to see it clearly, rather than missing it because you have filled the space with the nearest available substitute, is the posture of patient, curious attention. Not passive waiting, active looking, staying present in the space without rushing to fill it. Isaiah said, "Do you not perceive it?" The perceiving is an active posture, looking with expectation, paying attention in the direction of the new thing, not staring at the closed door, not filling the space with anything that breaks the uncertainty, but actively, curiously looking for what is already beginning in the direction you have not yet fully turned toward. Here is a second practice for the gap. It is a weekly journaling question, and it is this: where did I see something new beginning this week? Not where did I see something resolved. Do not wait for confirmation that the new thing has arrived. Ask instead, where did I see something beginning? Something small. It might not be the new thing itself, but it may be the first visible edge of it. Look for something with the texture of beginning rather than the texture of the familiar and established. This question does the opposite of the replay. The replay is a search for evidence related to the closed door. This question is a search for evidence related to what is opening. And what you search for regularly determines, in a practical way, what you find. The brain is a pattern-matching organ. If you are consistently asking where the new thing is beginning, you will begin to notice things you would have missed if you were not asking. The new thing is already springing forth. What remains is whether you have trained your attention to perceive it. There is one more thing I want to address before we close, and it is something that does not get talked about enough in conversations about rejection and redirection: the role of the body in the replay. Most of the practices for dealing with rejection are cognitive. They address the thought, the interpretation, the meaning assigned to the experience, and those cognitive practices matter. The 7 words matter, the reframe matters, the direction of the inquiry matters. But rejection lives in the body too. The brain scanner findings are not metaphorical. Those same physical regions that respond to physical pain also respond to social rejection, which means the replay is not just a thought pattern, it is also a body pattern, a physical posture. Certain tensions held in specific places become the body's memory of the painful experience. And cognitive practices by themselves cannot fully reach a body memory. They can change the thought, but they cannot always change the physical holding. Here is something that addresses this, and it is simple enough that I almost did not include it because it sounds too simple. But it works, and the research supports it. When you notice the replay beginning, when you feel the pull of it, when the familiar ache starts to come back, before you say the 7 words, take one slow breath. Not a dramatic breath. Just a breath that is slightly longer than your normal breathing, especially on the exhale. 3 or 4 counts in, 5 or 6 counts out. That breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It signals to the body that the threat is not currently present and creates a small but real amount of physical space in the tension that the memory has activated. And in that small physical space, the redirect becomes easier to make. The 7 words land in a body that has slightly released its hold on the memory, rather than in a body that is still gripped by it. Breath first, then redirect. It is a small practice. 4 seconds may be enough to begin. And over time, the combination of the breath and the redirect begins to change not just the thought pattern, but the body pattern. The physical response to the memory begins to soften, and the grip loosens, not immediately. Over months of consistent practice, the replay is real, so is the pain it carries. Its neurological and physical nature is real too, and there are practices, small, daily, consistent practices, that change it, not by force, never by willpower alone, through training, through repetition, through the slow accumulation of small daily acts. You become the person who perceives what is beginning rather than being held in what has ended. That door closed. I am looking for the new thing. Breath first, then redirect. Day 1 is a discipline. Month 6 is a habit. Year 1 is character. That is how the redirect becomes who you are. There is one more thing I want to address today, and it is something that I think deserves honest attention before we close. Some of you are not just carrying the replay of one rejection, you are carrying the accumulated weight of multiple rejections in the same general direction, not one closed door, a pattern of closed doors. The same kind of thing, tried in different forms, in different contexts, with different people involved, and the answer keeps being no in one form or another. And that pattern raises a harder question than a single rejection does. When is a pattern of rejection a redirect, and when is it information about direction? I want to be careful here, because I think this question deserves honesty rather than automatic reassurance. The answer that is always encouraging, keep going, every no is just the path to yes, the pattern is temporary, is not always the accurate answer. Sometimes a pattern of closed doors in a particular direction is genuine information. It may be the accumulation of evidence that the direction itself needs to be reconsidered, not just the specific approaches within it. But there is a meaningful difference between a pattern of closed doors that is a redirect within a direction and a pattern that is information about the direction itself. And the difference, while it requires honest discernment, is usually not invisible if you are willing to look at it carefully. A redirect within a direction tends to produce growth in the person who persists through it. The repeated attempts, even the ones that don't succeed, build competence and clarity. Each iteration produces something that the next iteration will use. The person who keeps trying is not just trying the same thing in the same way. They are becoming more capable of what they are attempting. Information about direction tends to produce something different. The repeated attempts feel increasingly misaligned rather than increasingly refined. Any sense of rightness that might accompany a genuine calling does not deepen through the difficulty. It remains elusive, or it was never quite present, or it becomes clearer on reflection that it was more about what a particular outcome would have meant than about a genuine sense of calling toward the thing itself. These are not always easy to distinguish, but they are distinguishable. And one of the most important things you can do in a season of repeated closed doors is to bring the question to honest examination rather than defaulting to either automatic persistence or automatic release. The 7-word practice, that door closed, I am looking for the new thing, applies here too. But in the context of a pattern, the new thing may be a genuinely different direction rather than a new attempt in the same one. And the honest search for where the new thing is beginning is what makes it possible to perceive that if it is true. God said, "See, I am doing a new thing." He did not say, "See, I am doing the same thing you have been attempting, just eventually." The new thing is new. It may be related to what you have been pursuing, and it often carries forward something of what the previous attempts built. But it is genuinely new, and perceiving it requires the same turn, away from the former things, toward what is already beginning. Whether you are carrying one significant closed door or a pattern of them, the posture is the same. That door closed. I am looking for the new thing. And that search, conducted honestly and consistently, is what puts you in position to perceive what God is already doing. Begin with the breath before the redirect. Return to the 7 words. Continue the weekly search for where the new thing is beginning. Practice the daily turning of attention away from the former thing and toward what is opening. These are small practices. They do not feel significant on any given day, but they are the practices that change who you are over time, and the person they build is the person who can actually receive what God is doing, rather than the person who is still facing the direction of what He has already closed. That door closed. You are looking for the new thing, and it is already beginning.